All right, man. I am excited about this one. Matt Arroyo on this show. Matt, welcome to the show, man. Excited to have you on.
Thank you for having me, man. Love to be here.
So much to talk about. Me being a UFC fan, and I did some MMA in the back. In the years prior to me getting older now. I just so much to talk about from jujitsu to MMA. And who better to have on than you, UFC veteran, jujitsu master, out in Tampa. I'll let you tell your story a little bit more. Who you are, what you do, and I'm excited to dive into some chat about fighting. Really.
Yeah, I'd love to. That's my favorite thing to talk about. So, but yeah, I mean, I'm Matt Arroyo. I started training Brazilian Jiu Jitsu in 2003, so 20 years now, and really quickly on, I realized I wanted to own a gym. I saw my instructor Rob Kahn and all my students, I'm sorry, all my training partners and all of us training. And I was like, man, this environment is just amazing. I want this for the rest of my life. I don't want to. And at that time, I had just graduated from University of Tampa, and I was working in life insurance, going door to door in this Florida heat in a suit, knocking on doors just because to be honest, I just wanted to learn sales. But, and then when I went to jiu-jitsu, I was like, oh, I'm free. This is amazing. So I knew quickly that I did not want to wear a suit and tie every day, as cool as it looks. As probably kids in college right now are like, yeah, I
Right.
want to be that guy. Well, it's not all it's cracked up to be. And, I didn't want to be out in the Florida heat outside. I knew I didn't want to do that. I just knew I wanted to do jujitsu every day in some way, shape, or form. And I know the way to do that is to have an academy. So I knew that early on. My instructor, Rob Kahn, who's a black belt under Hoist Gracie, actually one of his first black belts ever, um, was awesome about it. He's like, yeah, man, when you're ready, when you're at the level, we'll do it together. I'm like, that's awesome. So, I went through the ranks, got my blue belt, got my purple belt, started competing, started doing MMA. One thing led to another. I ended up on the Ultimate Fighter reality show with the big help from one of my best friends, Alan Barubi, Monsalopsta. And we got on, beat my first two guys, sustained a rib injury on the show. They invited me back to the finale, even though I got injured and whatever. So I still got to fight in the finale. I got an armbar submission, got submission of the night that night, and they gave me a UFC contract. So I was fighting in the UFC. And right when I got back from filming The Ultimate Fighter, I talked to Rob Kahn and I was like, dude, this is the time. Like, I know I'm only a purple belt, but I got some fame, not a lot, but just some popularity and credibility now. Let's do this. And he's like, all right, I agree. Shortly after, he gave me my brown belt. I opened the gym in South Tampa. We partnered on it for a lot of years. And but the main thing is I was trying to start a business, which is very difficult to do.
Right.
I didn't know anything. I didn't know sales. I knew a little bit of sales. I didn't know marketing. I didn't know business systems. I didn't know what to do. I just knew I wanted to do it, which was important. So I was trying to have a UFC fighting career on one side and be successful there, and trying to open up a gym at the exact same time from the ground up. And man, it was so hard. I was doing really crappy at both. I was just so exhausted from the training camps that I didn't have any like energy, mental energy to be like, okay, let's implement this, let's implement that. And then when I was trying to implement stuff, I was like, man, I should be training right now. So instead of training, I was doing that. And then I kind of did both. You can't put 50% into something and expect to get like the 100% result. So I was doing 50 of this, 50 of that. I was losing fights. Now, granted, I was fighting pretty damn tough fighters, guys like Matt Brown. But again, I could have put more into it, and I knew that. And the gym wasn't doing well. I had like 30 students after like 2 years of being open, which if you're opening a gym one day, that's not good. If you have
Right.
30 students after 2 years, you're not doing well. So I lost two fights in a row in the UFC. My heart just was at the school, man, and it's no excuse. I mean, these guys beat me. I lost to Matt Brown, and then I lost a split decision to Dan Kramer. Um, and then the UFC cut me, and I was like, okay, well, this made my decision real easy. And I was thinking in my head for just 2 seconds. I thought my best bet maybe would be to just drive down and move to Miami, train at ATT where all the UFC fighters are at, and just do that and forget the gym. I could always do a gym. I could always open one. And let me just push it. Let me just see how far I could take it. And at that time, George St. Pierre, who I'm sure you're familiar with,
Of
was the
course. Yeah.
champ
Yeah.
for a very long time. And I'm like, all right, that's who I should be aspiring to beat if I'm going to do this. And I'm like, damn, that's a tough win. So
Yeah.
anyway, my heart wasn't there. My heart, I always knew my heart was in opening up an academy, helping other people, and learn jujitsu. If they want to do MMA, great. I could help them do that too. I had the experience now, and easy decision. It took like 30 seconds. I'm like, fork in the road. Do I go to Miami? Do I open the gym, stay in Tampa? And it was quick. Boom, I'm staying in Tampa. We did it. So now that I wasn't in the UFC anymore, I was able to put 100% into the gym and growing it. And I didn't know what I was doing. So I had to hire some people. I hired coaches. I went to seminars. Every seminar that was in my industry, I went to. Any marketing seminars I went to. I started learning. I started downloading knowledge. I tried to transfer my passion for jujitsu and MMA into business, and it worked because I actually started to enjoy it, and I was like, oh, this is awesome. And the more I learned, the more I implemented, the more it worked. More students were coming in, my income was going up, everything was working out really well. We moved from like a small place to a bigger place to an even bigger place, and now we're in 9,000 square feet. We've been open for, this will be your November 17th, will be 16 years open.
Wow.
And yeah, we're doing really well. We have a lot of students, everybody's happy, and we've 17 coaches. um, I teach twice a week. I work with the fighters, I work with the competitors, and that's always, that was always my vision. So I got guys like Billy Q, who is in the UFC right now. Matt Fravola, we brought him up, who's a top 15 fighter now. So he came to us pretty much from scratch. Billy too, and yeah, so things are going well. I'm married with 3 kids, so the
I know.
kids are growing up in the
Busy.
gym. Dude, it's awesome. Like, yeah, I'd rather be busy. It's great.
When you came to that fork in the road, it's so hard because I tried MMA. It's so hard because I mean, you thought about the GSP mountain, right? Because you had to like get your body to a point where you got to be physically tough, and there was no really return on investment at that point, right? Like it's so hard unless you get to be a top guy, you don't get the major payouts. So I,
Right.
I believe with absolute certainty you made the right decision, and not only that, there is a preservation of the body, the brain taking the hits.
That was it.
It's just a beating you take, right? So from a business step back point of view, I think it's the right decision for sure. I mean, you got to be like ultra, ultra, ultra elite, top three type thing again, to make that money, especially back then. And to get to
Yeah.
that point, you really got to grind. I mean, it's got to be, and it sounded like diverse, were kind of focused here, focused there.
Hmm.
Again, my opinion here, I believe you made the right thing, the right decision there. And I'm glad it's paying off for you.
And then when you talk about the body and the preservation, you're right, man. That's one thing that was started to think about in that moment. I was like, man, I've already broke, sprained, whatever you want to call it, both ankles, popped
Yeah.
both knees. This deviated septum I still have to get fixed, which I'm actually planning on doing. Hurt my shoulder, and I was like, man, and that was only like 2006 to 2009. That's 3 years. Now imagine like I have a long 10-year career like a Joe
Yep.
Lozon or a Matt Brown, or what am I going to be able to play with my grandkids? Am I going to be able to play with my son? Like it was getting to that point. And as you get up the rankings, it doesn't get easier. You go against better guys and you get hurt even more. And it's not even so much the fight, because I hadn't really got injured in a fight too badly. It was more the training camps for the fights are brutal, man. Like, yeah, rough on your body and your mind.
I had the deviated septum surgery. It's not fun. You wake up in a lot of pain, so they kept, pumping me with, like, just hit me with morphine. This was years ago, and I only did amateur, right? So for me, it was a messed up rib, deviated septum, quadratic contusion just from sparring. It's not fun at all. It really, it's raw in there. It's not
Yeah,
fun. It's not all the glory. It really, you got to have a couple screws loose, and you got to just want to do it. You got to
for
be
sure.
super passionate about it too, because if you have any lack of passion, it's going to translate, it's really
True.
tough. Speaking of preservation, I just want to, do you watch UFC right now?
Oh
Are
yeah.
you, you're totally into it. Okay. So Tony Ferguson, right? Like, is he kind of pushing the limits now, man? He's got a fight coming up. He looked rough. He's been losing a lot. I mean, he looks like a zombie out there, straight up. Like everyone's concerned every time you see a Ferguson post, like he's fighting again. Like, what are
Yeah.
your thoughts on him? Should he continue fighting, in your opinion?
I mean, man, he can only make that decision for himself and how he
For sure.
feels. And I know how he feels, and you don't want to give that up. You love it. You truly do. You feel alive in there. When you're out, you don't feel alive. And I get all that. If I was his brother or his father, I would have a strong conversation and say, Tony, man, your brain, you can't take much more of this. I'd hate to see what's going to happen to you, if you keep this going. And I would strongly urge him to stop. He's got a fight coming up. Who's it against?
Who is
Uh,
it? I gotta pull it up here. It's against I'll look it up. I can't remember the guy's name.
Yeah,
I can't pronounce it.
Patty
Pimlet?
Pimblett,
Pimlet.
Patty Pimblett, yeah, and it's a great opportunity because Patty has a lot of things going for him. You know, he's got the hype behind him and everything. Yeah, Patty.
Yeah.
Matt Favola, my guy Matt Favola was looking for a fight with Patty for like months and months and months, and he just kept saying no. And then he ends up taking Tony Ferguson because Tony Ferguson is a high, big name, and he's kind of, you know, towards the end of his career. So I get it. It makes sense for Patty to fight him because he's got a good shot. But man, I would urge him, dude, please. Like if I was his friend or if his wife, I'm sure is saying the same thing. Like you just got to stop, man, because this stuff's going to be irreversible. Like it's bad. So yeah, I feel for him, but I understand him too at the same time. Like he still feels like he has some left. And if you watch some of his fights, yeah, he was getting hit hard, but you also saw a
Yeah.
trickle of what he used to be, and it's still there. So, you know, who are we to tell him? But maybe Dana White or somebody like that should be like, look, man, you know, start pushing him out the other way.
Also wanted your opinion. Is the UFC I would say yes, but I wanted your opinion because you've been in the UFC. Is the UFC a popularity contest? I'll give you two quick examples, and maybe you can, back it up here. My friend Jeff Joslin. I don't know if you know Jeff Joslin. He was a UFC fought Koscheck years ago, black belt.
Oh
One of the
yeah,
Yeah,
yes,
Jeff the Inferno Joslin. He trains out in Hamilton, Ontario.
I
Been
remember
friends
him.
with him for years. He auditioned for the Ultimate Fighter back in the day. He smoked everybody like in the audition. I think you had to do like a bunch of rolling as you get in and
Yep.
kind of to your skill. He tapped everybody out. But I think they at the time, I remember him saying again, I'm not going to quote it right correctly or not, but he said that they kind of said he's too nice. Like he was too nice of a guy, right? I'm good friends with Benil Dariush. He's been on the show. I'm going to get him back on in about a week. Benil,
Awesome.
super nice guy, 8-fight
Yep.
win streak, not getting a title fight. Then he goes against Oliveira, loses, right? So obviously you got to be marketable, you got to be sellable, you got to be a little bit loud. Do you really think that is somewhat true now? Is personality a major impact? Is it bringing in the dollars a little bit, or because it seems like nice guys are finishing last based on again my experience of what I've seen.
Yeah, yeah. Back then, especially when I was on the Ultimate Fighter and I tried out, everybody there were so many people who did such good job grappling. Like I was watching, I saw a guy. I remember, I forget his name, Mikey. I think it was Mikey Gomez. He's an old school black belt guy. I saw him tap his guy out like two or three times, and I think he ended up even choking him out like completely.
Yeah,
Super impressive. Did the striking part. Didn't make it to the interview, or if he did make it to the interview, he obviously didn't get on the show. But
yeah,
they wanted, especially I don't know about now. I think now it's a lot different, but back then they wanted the personality. Like I had 3 fights and I got on. My personality is not like crazy, but my buddy Monster Lobster told me how to get on, told me what to say, what to do. He fed me like 6 shots of alcohol right before I went into the interview, and
yeah,
I was a jerk, man. I was like telling them not to talk. I was like, let me talk. I'm the one that's talking here. You guys don't say
yeah.
a word.
Play it
They,
up.
they loved it. They loved it. But if I went in there like Jocelyn probably did, which was super nice, yeah,
Super
hi,
nice guy.
professional, respectful, that's not good TV. Nowadays, trying to get my guys onto the Ultimate Fighter later, they want that record. They want that 7-0, 8-0, 10-0. They want the fighter now, not the personality. So, but now go fast forward to today. They sold. They're public now. UFC on the stock market.
Yeah,
Endeavor, and then I think they're merging again. Whatever with WWE, whatever it is, they want entertainment. They want pay-per-views. They want big fights. They will take you notice in the last few years how many different like kind of super fights, different let me go up a weight class, let me go down a
yeah,
weight class, all these things. They just want the big fights because now they need to up stockholders' money, right? Before it was a private held company, Dana, Lorenzo Fertitta, and all those
yeah,
guys. Now they got to get that stock up. And how do you get the stock up? Try to get 10 Conor McGregors in there somehow. And there's only one Conor McGregor, and you got guys that are coming up like Paddy Pimblett, who everybody knows and some for some reason likes. I mean, I think he's got like the most punchable face I've ever seen.
I
Yeah,
agree.
he's
I agree.
probably a great guy, and I don't know. I have nothing against him, but man, and that plays for him.
That's
Like
punchable. Yeah,
it's very punchable, yeah. And that plays into what he does, and he's a good marketer, and he's got an entire country on his side, and he's making money, right? We talk about income, we talk about salaries. He's
yeah.
making money. You got guys like, oh my gosh, I always forget his name, with the colorful hair and the
Yeah. Sean, right?
Sean O'Malley,
Oh,
right? So you got
yeah,
Sean O'Malley. This guy's flying into his events in a private jet. Now he makes money other places. He's a smart guy. He's a smart marketer. He does the video game stuff, and Twitch or something like that, and things like that. So he was making money before UFC, but now he's really making money. Now he's the
Yeah,
champ. Now he's, you know, whatever. He's doing great. So you got guys that resemble Conor McGregor ish. They're not Conor McGregor. There's
no,
only one, right? He's making hundreds of millions of dollars. Nobody's doing even close to that. So yes, the long answer was I believe UFC is trying to make huge fights any chance they get. They want to increase stockholders' shares and
for
get
sure.
some up now. They have to worry about that now. They have to put out their reports every quarter, just like everybody else on the stock exchange. And I think that's how they're going to do it. They're going to try to bring these personalities in, get these big fights, increase their revenue, increase their pay per views, and increase stock. So
Definitely.
absolutely. It's
I want to go back. I want to go back into time. Old days of UFC. You probably watched the old days, right?
Oh, yeah, all of
Gracie, Shamrock, all those old days, right? I think
them.
the open weight classes. I'm a true believer that let's just say for myself, I want to be the toughest. I'm the toughest man on the planet. I beat up people in my backyard. Let's say I go out and I just smash everybody, and I weigh 180, and I want to go in. I just want to fight anybody. I just want to prove that I'm not only the best at my weight class, but the strongest fighter in the world. Do you believe open weight classes should be back? Should there be a separate division for that? Because again, if let's just say, I don't know, Conor McGregor comes in and says, I want to fight Bones Jones, because you guys are saying Bones Jones is the GOAT, right? But I can literally beat Bones Jones, probably not because of weight class, but shouldn't there be an open class to say I'm the strongest fighter in the world? Like, I think that they should have that.
Yeah, as a fan, I would absolutely love that. But as a coach and a professional, I know that that's not realistic. Only because back then, when Hoist Gracie was beating Dan Severn, it was style versus style, wrestler
Yeah.
versus jiu-jitsu. Nobody else knew jiu-jitsu was the only reason that Hoist Gracie was able to do what he did so easily. And some of the fights were hard. Like Chemo was a hard fight, Severn's was a hard fight, but some of them were just cake. He took him down. The guy tapped when he was mounted because he had a boxing glove on. He didn't know what he was doing. It's not like that anymore. So you take a and again, Hoist Gracie's jiu-jitsu is awesome. He's one of my mentors, one of my teachers. He gave my instructor his black belt. Um, but if everybody knew jiu-jitsu and was a black belt like him, weight would matter a lot. I roll every day, and if someone else is a black belt like
Yeah,
me
for sure.
and he's 20 pounds heavier with muscle, it's a tougher roll than someone my size or lighter. So um, I think we do it in jiu-jitsu. You go to Abu Dhabi, the Olympics of jiu-jitsu, ADCC, and there is an absolute division. You go to the IBJJF, the World Championships, there is an absolute division in every single class. Okay, so it exists, and a small guys often beat big guys. They use their attributes, their flexibility, their speed, their technique. The big guy tries to kind of blob on you, but if you put that big guy on his back, you just run around his guard, no problem. But in MMA, you got striking, right? So if I'm 250 pounds and I'm like a Crow
Yeah.
Cop or whatever, a Brock Lesnar,
Yeah.
265 with all that power, and I'm fighting, you know, freaking Jose Aldo. I don't
Yeah.
care how fast Jose Aldo is. If I hit that little guy with this punch and he's 135 and I'm 265, it's just never going to work. Somebody's going to get hurt badly, and I think that's why they don't do it. And I think there are some of the little guys who would actually do it. Like they're crazy enough to be like, oh,
Yeah.
I'm the GOAT. Let me see. But jiu-jitsu is different. We're not getting punched. We're not getting punched in the face. We're not getting our head blasted in. I could do heel hooks and not get my head blasted in. It's a little different. So I don't think it will ever happen. I would love to see a little guy beat up a big guy or
I would
even
love
just like a one, like I always tell people in jiu-jitsu that size, of course, matters. If you don't know any jiu-jitsu and I do, size doesn't matter too much to me. I'm going to tap you out no matter what. But if you're 100, and I found the magic number to be like 180 to 190. If you're between 180 and 190 or up, you can handle the bigger guys.
Yeah.
Like if you're in the 70s, 60s, 50s, 40s, 30s, 130s, when you go against a guy 240 of muscle, you're a good black belt and he's a blue belt, you're having trouble because, especially if he's a black belt too, you're having trouble because just the size difference and the strength difference is so good. But yeah, 185. You saw Hicks and Gracie 180, 185 go in and beat guys way bigger, even though they were skilled fighters. But yeah, below that, I would say, yeah, it's going to be rough rough
I
day.
just like, again, the structure, it's a business, right? It's like you got the rounds, 5 minute rounds. I just wish that there was just some sort of open thing where you just fight to the finish, just let
Yeah.
them go at it. Don't stop, no breaks. It's a true fight. Because if you and I were getting to fight in the street, there's no like stop, time out, take a break, round, fresh. I know it's marketable, it's a business, I get it. But I wish there was a league where you just go at it like UFC one. And again, I think it's more ego, obviously. It's like, my ego is bigger than yours. I think I could take you, even though you get smashed. And because these guys are so big and strong now, right?
Mhm.
It's like, and they're fighting on they have all the skills that a small person. I get what you're saying,
Yeah.
but I would, again, like you said, I would love to see it. Just let them go. If you feel like you're the toughest, why should I be restricted to my weight class? I want to fight. Even
Sure.
girls, if they feel that they could punch up Bones Jones, let them fight. Step in.
Yeah.
Ronda Rousey in her prime. Why can't she fight a guy if she wants to? If she wants
Yeah.
to, all right.
Yeah. I mean, I like the no weight class, whatever, but I don't know. I can't
Not the
see
women, right?
punching girls. But at the same
No.
time, yeah, I mean, if you're down for it, like if you want to do it, and then there's a market for it, which I think there is, then heck yeah, do it, man. Why
A-
not? Oh, what
Absolutely.
I was going to say about the time limits. If you were just, I would love that, man. Like two guys, no rounds, just go until one person, either taps out, knocks out, or gives up.
Yeah.
But they're paying for pay-per-view time, right? So
Right.
think about the Hoist Gracie versus Sakuraba fight in Pride. It was like an hour and 45-minute fight, and that could happen because these guys are dogs, man. Like Billy Q, my guy, and Matt Frivola, they're
Yep.
not going to give up. Like they'll fight. It'll be an hour and a half, and they're not going to give up. And they may either get their guy or they get a game guy like them. So how do you put a 10-person card on if the fight's potentially could be an hour and a half? We're going to be watching it all night.
Right.
Pre-recorded. It wouldn't be able to be live, unfortunately. But I would, man, just do 5 fights and let it go. I would love that. See
Something
who's
like
like,
that.
yeah,
Something
no,
like
no timeouts. Like, come on, man, there's a fight.
that. Let them run. Let them go.
Yeah.
The importance, I just want to talk because you're a jujitsu master, you're really good at it. Just for the people that are just kind of getting into jujitsu or want to get into jujitsu, can you give me like a general three, other than just it makes you healthy, three important reasons, top three reasons why to take up jujitsu?
Yeah, confidence. I mean, think about anything you or me or anybody's ever accomplished, like big. You had to have confidence to go forward, right?
Yeah.
That confidence, I think I could do this. I think I could. Because if you didn't think you could do it, you wouldn't try and you would never do it. So for kids, especially, and if you're talking about adults, I'll get to that. But kids, if you have a child between like the ages of 4 and 13, and they're not in jujitsu, in my humble opinion, you have to put them in jujitsu.
Right.
Soccer's cool, baseball's cool. I played a bunch of sports growing up, but there is nothing that's going to teach you the life skill of confidence and focus and self discipline and like just the ability to know, not oh maybe I could fight this guy and win. No, you roll with a person physically daily. You get top position. Jocko Willink wrote this awesome book, these kids books called Warrior Kids,
Yeah.
and I had my son read it, and I was like, I got to read them now, right? They're kids books, but I knew I had to read it so I could see what he's reading. But it was great because he talked about this kid who was kind of like wasn't popular, wasn't cool. He was getting bullied. So the uncle, the military uncle that came home for a summer, kind of like Mr. Miyagi him and mentored
Right.
him.
Right.
It was awesome. I was enjoying the story. And he's talked about, now you got to go to jujitsu class. Let's go. So he found a jujitsu school. He went, and then he was getting bullied at school. And then as he was going to jujitsu, his confidence went up. But he's like, man, the bully is so big. Like, I just don't know if I could beat him, even though he knew jujitsu. So then this big kid joins the jiu-jitsu gym, and he's a nice kid and everybody's nice, and he starts rolling with him, and he got beat up, beat up, beat up, and then finally he started getting the better of the big kid, and this
Right.
kid was identical size to the bully. So then he took the big kid down, mounted him, and he was like so proud of himself. And then one day the bully really started messing with him in school, and then he had the confidence to double leg him and get the top, and the bully never messed with him again. The bully ended up joining jiu-jitsu, and they became friends. That's so could happen, like to any one of your children if you're watching this. The confidence that it builds in your kid. The number one thing you can do for your kid is give them love, of course, but confidence. You see adults all around. They won't look you in the eye. They don't. They look down.
Right.
They're walking around with their shoulders shrugged. They're just not confident human beings. And their whole life kind of shows that. Like they're just doing an average. Everything's average, average, average.
Mediocre.
Yeah, mediocre. And in this day and age, like where it's normal to go to a restaurant and eat and look over and see every child in the entire place on their iPhones and their iPads, and they're like
Right, looking down.
beat out, and they're just sedentary like lifestyle. And gym class doesn't even really make you move around too much anymore. And the only time they get exercise is recess, and they're probably on their phones during that time anyway. And then they come home, and the parents get stressed out, so they put them in front of the TV and they put them in front of the iPad. It's like, oh my gosh, jujitsu is going to save the world if kids can just get in there. So for kids, it's a no brainer. Every summer, like clockwork, it happened this past summer, the past summer before, I get text messages from my friends who are in their 50s, and all of them ask me the same thing. Hey, Matt, my daughter's about to go to college after the summer. Can you do some private lessons with her? Because I want her to be safe when she goes to college, just in case anything happens. And
Not enough though.
in my head, I think the same thing every time. It's too late, brother.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to get them in young. It has to be if some guy's going to try to rape your daughter or attack your daughter, or some
Yeah.
girl's trying to try to bully her or attack her, it has to be second nature. It can't be, oh yeah, Matt taught me 10 lessons this summer. You can't think. You just have to do it. And the only way to just do it is to make it second nature. And the only way to make it second nature is to do it every day for years. So that's what I think. And I'm like, I said, dude, it's kind of too late, but I'll give him some awareness stuff we could talk about. I could talk about some basic things, but she's got to practice like crazy.
Yes.
She really wants it to be second nature. So kids, it's a no-brainer. Adults, I just talked about the kid who's not confident and grows up into be an adult who's not confident. And now you're an unconfident adult, and you let people walk all over you, just like you let the kids walk all over you at school. Now you're at work and you have bullies at work, and there are adult bullies. They're everywhere. And you become a people pleaser. And now that you're a people pleaser, you get taken advantage of. You're not happy. Then you what? I just saw a video today where they said 44% of adults and people are on antidepressants right now.
Right.
44% of America. That's freaking half. But if they were confident, they would push towards what they want. They would fight for their dreams. They would go after it because they think they could actually might be able to do it. And they'd have purpose and passion, and they'd want to be in shape because they respect themselves, and they'd lift and they'd train, and they would do all this stuff. And guess what? Depression isn't going to be there. I don't care, what you say. When you have purpose and passion and you're going for stuff and you have confidence, how many confident, depressed people, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
So yeah, number one, that confidence,
Confidence.
mental. It's not just physical strength, although you get crazy physical strength because you're using muscles you never used before. Every single stabilizer muscle in your body, just like wrestlers,
Yep.
you see their muscles popping out. So you're going to look better. You're going to be in shape. But your mental health, everybody forgets about the mental health. Going into jujitsu, having camaraderie. You think about these veterans that come back from war and they want to go back. Like nobody understands that mentality. Like, oh, I got to go back and help my brothers. They're still there. The mission's not done. I can't be here. I feel guilty. And they end up getting divorced, and they end up getting on medication, and sometimes they off themselves. Well, what they're missing is that band of brothers, like that camaraderie, that
Right.
that team. One of my students a while back did a, what do they call it, dissertation on how jujitsu helps military veterans. And man, there was some crazy proof in there. Like there was so many interviews. Like, man, this saved me. This saved my life. I hear it all the time. Jiu-jitsu literally saved my life. Now, can you get that from other combat sports like karate and taekwondo and kickboxing? I'm sure you could. I've never, I'm not a karate guy or a taekwondo guy, but I see it all around. Even look at an adult taekwondo person who trains. They're confident, man. Like they learned respect. They learn everything, and especially the ones that started as a kid and now they're adults. They're just different people, and they're,
Right.
they're not depressed. I'm telling you that right now. They're happy. And when you sweat daily, when you see your body getting stronger, when you have confidence, wow, I'm in this club right now, or in this bar, or in this activity, and I know I could take this guy, especially if he doesn't know jujitsu, because I just faced a guy who does know jujitsu, his exact size. If I get the match to the ground, it's over. That's confidence. That's like, man,
Amazing.
like building your body and your brain up. And people, I mean, I don't see any depressed people at the gym.
Well, my best friend and I were talking about this. He's taken jujitsu back up again now, right? So he loves it. And what we were talking about is that if you and I could punch each other in the face all day, but one's going to get bloodied up or knocked out, this is where you could take your body to a physical limit. You're in a fight with another man, and you guys are just going at it. You go pretty much full out, right?
Of
And
course.
it's that struggle. So if someone breaks into your house or you're on the street, the struggle. I've been in this position. If he's got my neck, no problem. I can get out of this. It's
Yeah.
it's the adrenaline rush, but it's that struggle. It's like you're going through this physical chess match that no other sport you can never have this in any other sport. Arm wrestling,
It's tough.
maybe like but this is like the full on. It's like a full on struggle, and that's the beauty of it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. There's nothing like the struggle to get your confidence up, and you know, you become a tougher person. You get a guy who's 230 pounds mounted on top of you with a gi on, and he's got like chest hair and like this freaking bushy chest, and it's in your face, and you're like, oh, and he's trying to mount you and smother
Yeah.
you, and you got to literally think, okay,
Survive.
breathe, survive, find a way out. That translates to life. Like you're in that position sometimes at work, with your marriage, with your kids. You're like, man, I'm gonna freaking kill these kids if they don't stop. No, let me breathe. Let me. It helps your temperance, man. Like you get more patient, more temperate. You know, and it's obviously I'm passionate about it. I can't speak enough about that. My kids, I have 3 kids, 10, 8, and 4. And 10-year-old's been training since 4. The 8-year-old's been training since she was 3. My 4-year-old started training last year. So they're gonna grow up in this. They're gonna struggle. They cried the first year. Like it's not like if you're a parent and you bring your kid to jiu-jitsu, expect the first year of crying.
Yeah.
And they say there was a saying I heard that was really good. It's what you say to the kid in the car on their way home that determines if they stick with it or not. It's a conversation in the car on the way home, you know. And I see parents, they want to coddle their kids now. They want to helicopter. They want to do all this stuff, and I get it. I mean, you love your kids and all that, but man, you got to let. If you're not going to let them struggle in your home and in life, then jujitsu is going to save your kids because we'll make them struggle. They have to struggle. It's a struggle when you're fighting another kid you've never fought before. When you're grabbing them and moving them. If you're not doing it right, bring them to jujitsu, and at least they'll get a couple hours a day or an hour a day at least of the struggle that they need to be healthy humans.
Absolutely. So we got what we got. What's a third one? Do you have a third one?
So we said mental health. We said confidence.
Confidence.
I mean, I know you said, whatever physical health, but man, everybody that joins ends up getting in really good shape. And when they get in really good shape, it snowballs into other stuff. They have the
Right.
confidence now to ask that girl out. They have the confidence now to ask for that promotion or quit their job and start their own business. It snowballs, man. Like start with your physical body, the temple you live in. Like you get this one body for the rest of your life. And if you got like, you know, big boobs and a dad bod and whatever, how could you possibly be confident? Like this is just not going to happen. You could fake it, but you ain't going to make it. So once you start shredding, I'm telling you, the rest of your life changes. I watch it. I've been watching it for 20 years. What this does to people, and they're able to snowball it into more success in their life, financially, spiritually. If you smoke or you do have bad habits, you start quitting them because people don't think about that. They think, oh, you just burn calories. No, it snowballs to every area of your life. You don't want to get tapped out anymore. It's terrible.
Right. No.
Terrible when someone's mounted on you. So you want to get better. All right, what could I do? All right, I'll stop smoking cigarettes. I'll stop vaping. I won't drink this weekend because I want to compete Saturday. I won't. And you just start having healthier habits. And I'm telling you, it goes from there.
I had some egos when I was training. Is there a lot of egos in the gym? Because I've tapped out. I was white belt for the longest time because I did a lot of no-gi, and it's like I never really leveled up, but I could definitely take black belts. I would hold my own, right? I was just more of those scrappy guys, can opener style, baseball choke and, inline leg grab. I was scrappy, right? So sometimes I'd end up with, I'd lean back, just do an inline leg grab, and, some guy, blue belt, would get pissed off. What are you doing, right? Like, you're
Yeah.
twisting. I'm like, I wasn't twisting, dude. I wasn't. So, is there a lot of egos that you've seen? And is it that the blue belts get tapped up by white? Do you find that there's a lot of egos, not even necessarily in your gym, but in general with jiu-jitsu? Like once you're a black belt and you get tapped out by a white, you even get caught, right? Sometimes you just get caught. Do you find that there's a lot of bruised egos in the game?
There are egos in my gym. There are egos in every gym.
Yeah.
It's human nature. Girls too. Theirs are just as big as ours. And once like I said, I'd say once you get to like blue or purple belt, high blue, purple belt, it starts to dissipate a little bit because now ego mainly is when you don't know what the hell you're doing. Usually it's like I got to overcompensate and I can't let him do this and I can't let her do that. But once you know you're an expert, like, all right, I'm a purple belt. This took 4 to 6 years to get. I
Right.
know what to do in every situation. I know now if somebody bigger and better comes, yeah, he's just bigger than me or he's better than me or whatever. But in the beginning, man, people are trying to kill each other. And as a coach and as instructors, we have to say, hey, I mean, every white and blue belt heard this more than anything. Relax,
Yeah.
relax. It's not the finals of the world championships.
Yeah.
Relax, just learn, grow.
You're wasting energy by being tense anyway.
And you're wasting way too. Yeah, they wonder why they gas out in 2 minutes. But I remember it took me a good year to learn how to actually relax because I didn't know what the hell I was doing. So I had to use strength and push and just try to do what I think was right. But yeah, there's egos everywhere, and slowly but surely, they start to go down a little bit as people get better. And sometimes as you get better, it goes up. Like you're like, now I'm the man and I'm going to beat him. And if I don't, I'm pissed. And in MMA, it's the same thing. You know, it's because now you can punch the guy in the face when you're pissed. Right. So I can't tell you how many fights, real fights, I've broken up in sparring with the MMA team over the last 20, 16, 17 years.
Right.
Like, hey, calm down, guys. You're hitting too hard. Hey, I just this morning, lower the power. I just yelled it this morning, 2 hours ago. Lower the power. Because one guy gets hit hard, and then the ego comes, oh, you want to hit me hard? I'm going to hit you hard back. And then it looks like an MMA fight where two guys, the Don Fry versus that Japanese guy in Pride, where they're just freaking slugging each other out.
Yeah.
And and you got to just check them. And if you have a coach that checks you, check him. And you're not afraid to tell people, dude, relax, relax. That's you're fighting with ego. Fight with technique, and just relax and breathe. Once you breathe and relax, everything becomes better. You'll be able to figure it out. But yeah, it's everywhere. If I would lie if I said, yeah, our gym doesn't have any egos. We cut that at the door with the sign, leave the ego at the door. That you ever see two guys go, hey, you want a flow roll? I'm not feeling it today. Yeah, let's flow roll. They smack hands and they start going super light, and that lasts, how many seconds does that last? 10 seconds. And then all of a sudden they're just all out going at it. It's just
Listen, I love these are all the bright spots of jiu-jitsu. The down thing, again, this is my opinion here. You can maybe back it up or whatever, because everything has its pluses and minuses. So here are these are some things that bother me about jiu-jitsu, okay?
yes.
Number one, it's the ego. Again, if I'm a lower belt, I tap out a purple belt, he gets angry at me and wants to smash me or screams. That's number one, is the ego. Number two is when you come in and you're dry and you go into another class and someone else is sweating, man. It's disgusting because or because they're slimy and you're fresh, right? I don't mind if we're both slimy, but
Yeah.
that's another thing. And another thing is then when someone's got their butt in your face and they haven't showered and they stink. That's the only, again, I'm just trying to be, I'm giving you,
Right.
I've had it, man. I swear this one time we were going no gi. This guy was on top, man. I don't know what position it was. It was like years ago. And it smelled really bad. I'm not even gonna say what it smelled like. I'm like, dude, why don't you shower, right? Like, those are the only thing I really dislike about jiu-jitsu. Everything else is great, but again, it happens. Part of the game, I guess, right?
Yeah, dude, I've made videos on this topic, specific videos dedicated to what you're saying, and it's just nasty, like armpits. Like, come on, man, shower and put some deodorant on, then put your wash your gi. Some people let it dry after class. Not
Oh
in my
man, no
school
way.
because I called them out right away. But some people let it dry after class and then put it back on for the next class, like the next day.
Yeah,
And then people wonder why there's staph infection and ringworm. You know how much bacteria is in that gi off of me, off of you, off of everybody you rolled with onto your
yeah,
gi. Then it dries and it like freaking breeds. So yeah, there's that. And yeah, people's butts in your face. It's like they don't wipe their ass or something.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and then
that's the
like
truth.
me personally, and other people may not care, but I'm like I have a pet peeve for cheek to cheek. So like when guys are passing the guard and they'll put their cheek right onto I don't know, there's something about that makes me go nuts, and I get a frame and I push out, and
Yeah,
I don't like that. The other thing I don't like about jujitsu, if we're getting, if you want to get real, like, is the injuries.
yeah,
So yeah, like people's knees are not meant to do jujitsu. I'm telling you right now. Like, you got these guys who are crazy flexible who, screw you.
yeah,
But I'm not. And yeah, so like knees are not meant to bend the way we bend when we do certain guard positions and jujitsu positions. And you see like a lot of knee injuries. So if you are thinking about training jujitsu, there's two parts to it. Yes, it's healthy for your heart, for your lungs, for your muscles. Oh my gosh, there's no workout like it.
amazing. Yeah,
But it is unhealthy for injuries because you will 100% in your first year get injured. I mean, I don't know anybody that hasn't. And if you make it a year, you got lucky. The second year, it just happens. And it's not like, debilitating, you can't walk anymore, whatever, but you may pop an ankle, you may pop a knee. I'm not saying a full ACL tear where you got to, be out a year, but you'll hear some pops. And it's not because someone's trying to tap you out and then you tap and they don't stop. It's because just the motions and the movements of jujitsu are
right.
not natural to the body, certain things. So you will get injured. You will, mess some fingers up. My hands aren't too bad. I'm trying to, but
Yeah,
I know some black belts whose fingers are like, I'd say, put your hands out straight and they look like this. Like, it's
yeah,
crazy. So if you do a lot of gi, that happens sometimes. I would say, so fingers, toes, ankles, knees. If you don't tap to arm bars, it could be elbows.
yeah,
So the injury part of it for me, it just sucks, man. Because then you can't. It's not even because like of life. It's because you can't train. Like that's why I hate it. Like 'cause I hate not training. I train 4 days a week, every week for the last 10 years. And before that, it was much more. It was like when my body could just take it all day, every day. But 4 times a week, and I want to continue that. It's great for me. It's great for my students. It's great for my health. And as long as you don't go crazy, you could kind of control. Number one place I see people get injured, just so you know, is the wrestling portion of jiu-jitsu. That's the
Right.
number one place, wrestling. So if you want to avoid injuries, and let's say you're 35, you don't care about competing or UFC or anything anymore,
Yeah.
or older, and I would just say if there's wrestling class, don't take it. Take private lessons for the wrestling. Get your coach one-on-one, learn the techniques, cool, and then just stay on the ground. You'll be a lot safer and a lot happier.
Let's solve some debates here. Let's, as we get to the end of this meeting here, this interview here, discussion, gi versus no gi. Okay. Cause again, I don't want to say I hate it. I understand the importance of it. So I don't disrespect gi. I totally get it. Right. It's like riding a bicycle, take the training wheels off, all that analogy, but gi versus no gi. I prefer no gi. I like to be free flowing. I like to spin on guys' backs, get my hooks in comfortably when I'm passing the guard. I don't want somebody grabbing my pants. Let go of my pants. I want to get them out. Right. I've done so much more no gi. I'm more scrappy. I survive better. They're not clinging on. Which one do you prefer? And which one, if you had to choose one, which one would you rather do, gi or no gi?
Okay, so there's so many different thoughts on this, and I actually have a dedicated video on my Instagram just to this topic. But it's basically, if you look at every no gi champion. So I'm not saying gi champion. I'm saying look at every no gi champion in the past 10 years. Like right now, Gordon Ryan is the
Yeah.
number one guy. Right? Everybody talks about Gordon Ryan. Marcelo Garcia is my personal favorite human that does jujitsu and practitioner. His style, the way he was able to tap everybody out and just dominate. um, Cobrina. You look at the Mendez brothers. I'm talking like all these champions
Yeah.
all started and trained their first half of their careers in the gi. Every one of the no gi champions started in the gi. Now, why is that? Because most schools make you start training in the gi. So it could be that, but I think their technique is better because they started in the gi, and I truly believe it. There's the slip factor. When you're no gi and you start out and someone arm bars you, you just freaking rip your arm out, and it works because you're sweating and you're dripping, and your guillotines and chokes and stopping the guard pass. You just slip all around. You put that gi on for your foundation the first couple of years, and then you take it off. Or you do gi mostly in the first year, and then you
Yeah.
do once a week. No, I think that would be best. As you get older, you hit your 30s and 40s and 50s. I think gi is better for those guys because it's slow. You don't have to rely much on your energy, and you can just focus. And there's so many more techniques to learn in the gi. If I took the amount of techniques in no gi and the amount of techniques in gi, there's almost double. There's with all the chokes and the lapel grips and the knee. So if I was to build an athlete, if I had twins and I wanted to do an experiment and see who'd be better after 2 years, I would put the one in the gi. Just the other one would be the control, whatever. He would just do no gi the whole time. The other one I'd put in the gi for the first year at least. I think it's important. Now, can you be an amazing grappler starting in no gi, ending in no gi? Of course. For no gi, you put a gi on, you're going to get destroyed. You're going to
Yeah.
get choked if you've never trained in it, and you'll
Yeah.
probably get your guard pass because we can grab the legs. You don't know how to deal with that. Eddie Bravo's 10th Planet. How many amazing no-gi grapplers are there today from there? There's a ton of them. You see them all over the place. They're winning tournaments. They're doing really well. So can you get really good at no-gi, and become a really good grappler training, starting in no-gi and doing your entire career no-gi? Of course. I mean, we could only do if you could only do a study and say, well, what if I would have started in the gi? Would I have been any better? I don't know, but you could definitely become a high level, top notch grappler just doing no gi, and that's fine. But I feel you'd have the advantage if you started in the gi and learned the proper technique everywhere and the grips and then took it off and did it from there. But Eddie Bravo started, and Eddie Bravo was an amazing
Yeah.
grappler. He beat Hoyler Gracie. Like that was impossible. When he did it, that was like everyone thought it was impossible. Hoyler was like the king at that weight class, and he puts him in a triangle from the rubber guard. But even Eddie Bravo, as good as he is, started in the gi. And
Well,
he's
but if you had to choose one, if I say, Matt, you can only train one for the rest of your life, pick one. Which one would you choose right now? if you had to choose one?
That being said, I would choose no-gi.
Yeah, I like the
I
three
am
style.
personally better. I think I'm a better grappler no-gi. You know, I won the Abu Dhabi trials in no-gi. Um, I just spent more time with it because my coach, Rob Khan, shortly after he opened his gym, kind of like took the gi out, and we just were doing no gi and MMA and all that. But I did have my first couple years in the gi, at least my first 2 years in the gi, and then he kind of got rid of it and scrapped it. He was like, man, I'm so tired of people just holding you and not doing anything and being boring. And he just made a decision, and for his school, and they did no gi, kind of like Eddie Bravo. But I enjoy both greatly. I train them both twice a week. I do 2 no-gis and 2 gis every week. So I love them both. If I had to choose forever, I can never do another one and had to do that one. Me personally, no-gi, because the leg locks. There's a whole new
Yeah,
game
I
there.
love Noki. I love the freeness of it. I don't know what it is. I just love being able to move quicker. There's something about it. I just don't like the limitation of just being strapped down and just, I don't know. I guess again, it builds strength. It's great, the gi, but I prefer no gi as well. I love it.
Ask me in 10 years, 20 years, I might say gi. I don't know. But right now I'm 41 at the time of this recording, and I still feel great. So I love no gi. I love the speed of it, the transitions.
Let's keep having fun here. Another this versus that, and this is a debate that again I talked to my friends about it. I'm having a hard time, solving this debate. A guy that's really trained MMA, jiu-jitsu, boxing, just an MMA fighter, fully trained, great conditioning, versus a fully trained Krav Maga, Israeli military style, throat eye gouging, throat punching, chest punching, just ruthless, relentless. I'm gonna take you down and finish you. I'm not gonna just tap you out. This is right to the finish, but fully trained, like hardcore military upbringing, war torn, just a strong guy, both in their primes, and they go face to face on the street. Who would you put your money on? And this is a tough question. I'm torn on this. I thought with your fighting experience and your background, you can give me an educated answer. I'll give you mine, but I really want to hear your and try not to be biased on this because I know you're an MMA jiu-jitsu guy.
Yeah.
Remember, this guy's war torn. This Israeli guy, Israeli Krav Maga. You get the pic. You're visualizing this on the street. They meet face to face. It's go time. Either it's a throat gouge, it's a takedown. What's happening?
Okay. So you take, this is an easy one, actually.
Okay.
And again, I might be biased, but you take 10 of the best Israeli defense Krav Maga guys in the world at each weight class, and I'll take 10 of the best MMA guys who are black belts in jiu-jitsu,
Yep.
really good at Muay Thai and wrestling, and 100 times out of 100, all 10 will destroy the Krav Maga guys because we'll keep safe distances. We'll probably knock them out from afar before we even get, and if it's grappling, they're going to play dirty. We're going to mount you. You're probably going to try to rip our balls off or
That's
try
it.
to
Yeah. Go for the
push
jugular and try to rip your throat out while you're grappling. You're not used to the throat gouge.
But good luck doing the throat gouge while I'm bashing your head in with elbows from the mount, or good luck ripping my nuts off when I'm on your back choking you. Like, okay, so for war, I'm trying to kill you. You
Yep.
probably don't know much jujitsu. You're probably not an MMA fighter. I'm ripping at your throat and your eyes and your balls and everything else I can grab to try to survive and kill you.
Pressure points, anything.
Pressure points, everything. Yeah. Put pressure points on me in an MMA match, and I'm gonna laugh because I'm not gonna feel it. Right? It's
True.
MMA, like the adrenaline, or even just on the street if we're fighting. Um, the only thing I would and grabbing my throat. I mean, people grab my throat all the time. They're
That's
not
true.
trying to grab my clavicle and rip it out, but they're grabbing me here. They're grabbing me here. I mean, it's just grip control. Eyes, that would suck if he poked me in the eye. It would just make me more mad to really.
Dug their thumb in your eye, and
But
but
yeah,
you can do that too, though. Like, what makes the MMA guy not capable of doing that?
exactly. Everything you're doing to me, I could do back to you, and from a better position because I know jujitsu. If I'm a really good Muay Thai, like an Anderson Silva, you think you're going to get close enough to Anderson Silva in his prime to
No.
guy gouge him? He's going to knock you out before you even get close. So, yes, I believe it's good for war. I think you should know both for war. You should know jujitsu, you should know striking, and you should know Krav Maga, like the Israeli defense, where you're just trying to straight kill people. Because sometimes you won't be able to get that position to kill the person. You need the jujitsu and the rest of it. So, I mean, I would love to see that. It's really hard to do an experiment on this because then
Yeah.
you could die.
Yeah.
But I bet you there's some MMA fighters that would be like, dude, there's no risk. Let's go. No holds bar. Let's freaking go in there and let's see. And I probably could name 3 or 4 guys right now who would sign up for it if someone wanted to put that event on.
Yeah.
But there's just no way, man. Like, I would bet my life on it. Like, there's just no way that the Israeli guys maybe 1 out of 100 they'd land something crazy. But man, it's MMA. If you want self-defense, don't join Israeli defense. Don't join Krav Maga. Join an MMA school. It's proven. Bring the Israeli defense guy in the UFC. See how he does. Like, he's not going to kill anybody. Like, even if he wanted to.
Yeah,
That's
I mean,
I could be wrong, but I think I'm right.
we could talk fighting all day. I got a couple more things I want to talk about. Okay, I had this discussion with my old my old karate trainer when I was young. We had this discussion. Okay, Jean Claude Van Damme in his prime versus Steven Seagal. Now I still see these Steven Seagal videos out where they're calling it in the comments bullshito now, and he's really overweight now, like, and he's doing these moves, but you could tell it's staged. These guys are running at him, and he's just throwing him around like it's nothing. I'm like, come on, man, it's not
Yeah.
realistic. And we know how arrogant that guy was in the prime, and he hated
Yeah.
Van Damme. So in their prime, Van Damme versus Steven Seagal. Who wins this matchup? Back in the day, and maybe even right now. So let's go with back in the day.
Okay.
Who wins the fight?
Well, I've watched Van Damme spar with some MMA fighters, and his kicks were pretty damn good. Like, he was pissing people off. Like, one of the
Yeah.
guys, I forget who it was. I think it was one of the alpha male guys. Were like pissed after. He's like, "Yo, what the frick?" Because he kicked him right in the face. So I think he could actually fight. I really
Yeah.
do. Steven Seagal, all I've really seen in his movies were like the wrist lock throws, like, where you just grab your wrist and you do a flip. And we all know that stuff, it's kind of like silly. Or else what? You would see it in the UFC, the ultimate proving ground. Like, so I think back then, and especially today, now that what's his face is so out of shape, and Van Damme still looks pretty damn good. Definitely today, Van Damme kills him, knocks him out. Back then, I think the same thing. I mean, I think it was more. I heard he was actually pretty legit, at what he does, Steven Seagal, in that world. Um, but again, like, Van Damme is more like a kickboxer,
Yeah.
and he's got the kicks, he's got the flexibility. I think he kick Steven Seagal in the head and knock him out, or at least hurt him. Yeah, I got to go. And again, when I was growing up in the 80s and 90s, it was all about Van Damme for me, man. Like, he was my
Yeah.
first, like, I missed Bruce Lee. I wasn't in the 70s. So it was Van Damme. I was like, this guy's amazing. I watched, Bloodsport, Kickboxer, Lionheart. I watched all those. And that's what made me get into martial arts. So
Bloodsport was amazing. That's one of my favorite movies of all time, and
amazing.
that's what I was thinking. I wish there was a tournament like that, but then again, there was no jujitsu back then. But it's amazing they were just doing groin strikes. It was just the fight to the finish is what it was. That's why I loved about it so much. But no Brazilian jiu-jitsu back then. That's really like kind of modern UFC, but to the finish, right?
Yeah.
What a great time to be alive when those movies were kind of in their infancy, in their prime, and we enjoyed those action movies. And now it's like, it's still fun to watch, but it's just you see those guys, you're like, man, the UFC fighters of today would destroy those guys.
Yeah, I mean, in Brazil during that time, jiu-jitsu was prevalent, man. Elio Gracie was challenging everybody. All the Gracie sons were becoming teens. It was just in America. We didn't know anything about it. But if you watched Bruce Lee's the movie, where he goes up all the levels, Enter the Dragon, and he goes against the basketball player, he puts in a head arm triangle choke from side control.
Yeah.
That was jiu-jitsu, man. Like, so he was a true mixed martial artist, man. He was just trying to figure out from all that, even if he had to go to Brazil, if he had to go here, there, to figure out what's working everywhere. And I remember rewatching it as an adult, and I'm like, whoa, that was a head arm triangle. Like, he had him in the Katagatame. Like, he choked him. Like, he knew, too bad he's not alive today to learn everything, but
What a great time to be alive back then to watch that. And my favorite for UFC 1 was the guy that came out with one glove and he lost to Gracie. That guy
Art
never
Jimerson.
lived that. What's his name?
Art Jimerson.
I don't think he'll ever live that down. You come out with one glove. I mean, I don't even know what the strategy. I guess one to grab, one to punch.
He said he doesn't want to break his power hand knuckles, so he's going to put the glove on one. He'll grab him with the other and blast him, and he won't break his knuckles. So, yeah.
I see it. I see the strategy back then, how that would have made sense, but
And that was the first fight ever in UFC, right? Or whatever. Or like, I think it was anyway, Hoist's first fight ever. He gets the mount, and then the guy just starts tapping. You can see Hoist like, what's going on? Why is he? And he's like, are you sure? Like, he couldn't believe it. Like, because in Brazil, everybody does jiu-jitsu. It's been like that since like the 50s, 60s, 70s.
Yeah.
Elio Gracie challenged Joe Frazier or Joe Lewis, one of those Joes, and he was like, no, thank you. Like this 5'6", 135-pound man, nobody wanted to fight. So jiu-jitsu, man.
What a great conversation. One more thing. I see you train with Bautista. What is he? He's like, what, 6'6", what is he, 290?
Yeah, that's a little overinflated. Dave Bautista is in between 6'2" and 6'3" ish.
Okay.
And he's his weight fluctuates because his movie roles. He had to gain a ton of weight for Knock at the Cabin. They wanted him to get fat
Yeah.
because they didn't want to see the muscles. But so he was like 300 pounds for that. But right now, I would say last time I saw him, he looked to be between 240 and 250,
And he's
something like
doing really well with his jujitsu. He's converted his strength and everything onto the mat. He's doing really well with it, I'm sure.
dude, you don't feel him use strength hardly ever when he rolls. He's all technique, man. Like
Wow.
I thought we were gonna go and it was gonna be like a explosion of he was smooth like butter. His technique was sharp, and if he needed to use his strength, he would. Like he
Yeah.
wants to stop a pass, he wants to stop you from submitting him. He'll rip out, and he has actually really good wrestling. Like you think WWE, but he's actually a good wrestler. Like
Yeah.
like the real actual wrestling. He had good double legs, good single legs. He knew what to do. He had a good whizzer. He knows what to do. And yeah, he's awesome, man. He's a great guy, super humble. I was like, dude, how are you so normal? He said, because I live in Tampa and I don't live in LA. I'm like,
Yeah.
good point. And he does his movies. I see him, when he's here. He did like
Humble guy.
four or five movies last year. He was in and out, in and out, in and out. So like, all right, see you later, brother. See you in 2 months. He comes back, we train, he leaves, he comes back. And it's like that's his thing. And he's striking the iron while it's hot. He went from, brand new actor to he's an A-list celebrity now. He's in the big movies. He's starring in these big movies. So I'm super proud of him. I'm happy for him. And man, that guy, nobody works like he does. Like I couldn't do that, man. He was back one time for a week and then right back out for another movie. I was like, how do you? And it's not easy. Like if you've ever acted before, I did this college film and we did a fight scene and it took 3 days. Like it was a 2 minutes fight scene. Like
Yeah.
I was not having fun any of the time. I was like, man, I give these guys a lot of credit. This is real. Like this isn't, you see the end product and it's like, oh, he's in a movie. He's cool. That wow, he's popular. He's famous. But
A lot of work.
that's freaking work, man. And emotionally too. You got to put yourself into this character. So I get it. And he's really good at it. He's just a hard worker. He puts his, head down and goes. So yeah, I can't say more good things about the guy. He's a great friend too. Thoughtful, humble, just a good dude, good
I
human.
was I was curious on his ability just because I see him in your Instagram video. So I was curious how well, because you just naturally think that he's just a big guy who's going to slam you, right? Because of the wrestling
Yep.
background. But
Yep.
it's amazing to hear that he's got that flow, which jujitsu brings out of people, right?
Yeah, and then cool enough, the guys that helped me with my Instagram and they film my videos, I was like, hey, why don't you film us rolling? So we actually all the Batista videos that you see on my Instagram right now, I think we're at the end of them. I think we filmed like 30 or 40 videos together. And then at the very end we rolled. So they're going to cut, I told them how to cut it up, just cut up little pieces here and there of him doing well, me doing well, and put it together. And so you guys are going to see on my Instagram and the net. Well, I don't know when this is coming out, but
Yeah.
it may already be there. And if it's now, next couple of days, you're going to see us rolling. So everybody was asking about that in the comments. They're like, dude, did you guys roll? Did you record it? I'm like, coming soon, coming soon. So you'll see. It's pretty cool. You'll see how he flows.
All right, last question here. Again, I just love picking the brain if somebody's
Yeah,
got the like mind with the fighters here.
heck yeah.
Top 3 UFC fighters of all time, like the GOAT. Who is the GOAT and the other two after him?
Yeah. This is a hard question because there's so many really good fighters. But in my opinion, and the way I like to fight and the way I like it is I would say George St. Pierre for me
Yep.
was number one. A couple reasons. You rarely ever saw him get hit. He had a game that everybody knew that he was going to do and nobody could stop it, his
Double
wrestling.
leg takedown was almost impossible to stop.
Yeah, like and then he'd fight guys like Josh Koscheck, who was like wrestling credentials were insane, and he just
Yeah,
threw him across the mat with a double leg. Like it's insane. The athleticism. Like you look at his Instagram today, he's still training just as hard as he did when he was fighting. He's a
in great
martial
shape.
artist. This isn't because he'll do this till he's till he can't. So I love him. I love his attitude. He's so positive. He's a good dude. He's humble. He's the epitome of a champion for me.
Yeah,
So he's my all-time favorite. I would say Anderson Silva for me before he, kind of went past his prime and,
fell off the boat. Yeah,
fell off. But in his prime, holy crap, striking and just overall MMA, nobody could even touch him. He was making people look like they were in slow motion. I was at his fight against Forrest Griffin.
where he backed up and
Front
punched,
row.
knocked.
Yeah,
I
it was
almost
a
thought that
jab.
I thought that looked fixed. Everybody that saw that the way he just dropped, but he did actually clip him in the spot. He hit
No
the ball.
way. No way fixed. No, Forrest would never do
No,
it. Forrest, there's no way. But
no.
just Forrest was in slow motion, and Anderson just pop. He's beating everybody at 205, 185. I would say he's a goat. Up in there. And number three, I got to give it to Khabib, just because the way he went out there, and again, I knew what he was going to do. The opponent knew what he was going to do. Not one person in his 29 fights was able to stop it.
No.
And again, his striking is as not polished as it looked, was crazy effective. Everybody had busted faces from his jab and he dropped Connor with the right hand. Like, it was, as towards the end of his career, it was getting actually really effective. Just looked weird because he's a wrestler, but I would give him, and any one of them could be 1, 2, 3. I'm not saying one, but for me personally, attitude, not getting hit. I mean, GSP was the man. He did it all well.
So many underrated like fighters that have just kind of fallen off. That were so good. I mean, Chuck Liddell was outstanding. His ground game obviously not where it should have been. Matt Hughes, I mean, his strength was just unreal back in the day, right? He was like an ox, that guy.
Yeah.
So there's so many other good fighters, but yeah, I would agree with you on those. Those are, because I'm a little old school, so I grew up watching GSP a lot back then. Kind of faded off MMA, got back into it. But yeah, I agree with those three. What I'm surprised is that Steven Seagal didn't make the list.
Steven Seagal to make the list, and people watching this might say, why didn't John Jones make the list?
Yeah.
Again, he's up there. He's right there. He could be in that list too. I don't like some of the stuff he's done outside of the thing, but if we're just talking fighting, man, I mean, how many people gave him a match? What's his face? The Nordic guy. What's his name? I forget. That could have went either way. The Viking looking guy. I can't
I
think.
know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a great fight. That could have went.
Yuri. I can't pronounce his name.
That could have went either way. But really, everybody else, he's pretty much tooled, choked out, ground and pound. He doesn't really have any losses. The only loss on his record is from what's his face, Matt Hamill, because he got disqualified for elbowing him from the mount, which he would have won anyway. So yeah, he's in that list too, as far as just skills and, man, confidence. Look at him. He goes in there. He went in there after 2 or 3 year layoff, chokes out Cyril Gane in 10 seconds. Like,
Yeah.
come on, man. Like, that's impossible. But yeah, he's up in there. But then there's other guys, of course. But those are for me personally, who I like, those are the guys.
Yeah, but wasn't Matt Serra part of your crew? GSB, I love do Matt Serra. Remember that whole thing?
Yeah.
Wasn't Matt Serra one of your guys? You trained with him, didn't you?
So Matt Serra was my coach on The Ultimate Fighter.
Okay.
Season 6.
That's what it was.
Yeah, he's awesome. I love Matt Serra. He cracks me up. He's got such good, teaching ability. His jujitsu. I didn't know any real striking or wrestling before I was on The Ultimate Fighter. He taught me a bunch of takedowns that I still use today. So a lot of the techniques he taught me in jiu-jitsu I still use today. I went out and trained with him after. I see him every now and again. I bring him in for a seminar here and there. I see him at the UFC fights backstage. I love Matt Serra. He's awesome.
He had a moment when he knocked GSP, man. He hit that button and everyone
was there. It was
You
in
were at that fight.
Texas. Yeah, UFC 69, I want to say. I could be wrong.
Wow.
UFC 60-something in Texas. And I didn't know him then, and I wasn't on The Ultimate Fighter then. I was about to be on The Ultimate Fighter a couple months later. I didn't know I would even ever have a relationship with him, but I was watching that. And, knowing him now, I could see how he obviously could have won. But back then, I was like, GSP was just unstoppable. There's no way anybody beats him. And, man, he hit him flush. And just like that, man, anybody could be beat at any time. Never bet your money on MMA. You will lose. There's no sure thing.
It's a fighter's chance. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Matt, I appreciate it, man. It was an absolute pleasure. And stay on for a second after we say goodbye. But yeah, I appreciate it. And it was great chatting with you, man. And fighting pretty much better than anybody else. You've been there. You've hit the pinnacle of the sport. You do it every day. You train. I had a lot of fun, man. I really did.
Me too, man. Thank you. And if you guys have any questions for me, or you need any help with anything, Matt Arroyo MMA is my Instagram. And it's also the same on YouTube and TikTok and all that. Just hit me up.
Yeah.
Private message me and yeah, whatever you guys need. So
I'll link it below as well to all these videos. So yeah, thanks, Matt. We appreciate you, man. It was a pleasure, and go Steven Seagal.
Yeah, Steven Seagal, baby. Thanks, Joe.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.